The views, information, or opinions expressed during the Seeds of Wellbeing series are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of the University of Hawaii College of Tropical Agriculture and Human Resources, or funders, and any affiliated organizations involved in this project. Welcome to a Seeds of Wellbeing Voices from the Field podcast featuring voices of Hawaii agriculture producers for Hawaii agriculture producers. These podcasts are made possible by a grant from the University of Hawaii College of Tropical Agriculture and Human Resources, also known as CTAR, and the Seeds of Wellbeing, or SO project, and is supported by a grant from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, National Institute of Food and Agriculture, and the Hawaii Department of Agriculture.
Joining us today on Voices from the Field is Daniel Dunham. Aloha, Daniel. Welcome. How are you doing?
Aloha. Thanks.
Hi. Yeah, of course. Thanks for being here today. We're excited to hear from you and your experience in the field. Why don't you go ahead and start with telling us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
My name is Daniel Dunham, and I am a tropical fruit farmer and beekeeper. I live in Puna, in the Hawaiian Paradise Park subdivision, and I grow mangoes and lychee and coconuts. Those are my three main food crops, and then I'm also a beekeeper, and I produce a lot of honey. And I'm a UH Hilo alumni. I went for tropical plant science and agroecology, and then I also picked up beekeeping while I was at the college, and also got my certificate in beekeeping. So I've been using those skills in the field, and I've made a business, and I've been successful in business, like bootstrapping it, and doing so good so far.
That's wonderful. Tell us a little bit more about your business.
Well, I started in 2018, right before the big 2018 eruption. And yeah, started out with like a challenge right off the bat. We had a little bit of ash fall and wiped out my whole lychee crop, and
Oh, no.
but right. And then yeah, I've dealt with pandemic and crippling recession and all that sense, and I'm still here, so it's a
Let's
good
talk a little
thing.
bit about that. So part of our project Seeds of Wellbeing is we're looking at how can we better respond to the natural stresses and the anticipated stresses really of life in farming. So when you experienced that with your lychee crops, what was one of the first things that you did to respond to that? Honestly.
Yeah, I was just like floored, and then you're just kind of in a state of shock anyway, because like impending doom, the lava might come your way, and it was just kind of you gotta I meditate a lot, and have a good stretching routine, and like I try to just stay calm and like prepared to handle any kind of situations. And then a lot of it has to do with like positive self-talk, like in the face of like unsurmountable circumstances. Like one of the questions I like to ask myself is like, when I'm faced like with one of those situations, is like, what would a resilient farmer do? And yeah, and in that situation, like when the lava was coming, I just I did what I could do. I just got ready for next season, and then I started to branch out into other things. I started doing I hadn't had bees yet at my place, and I eventually I got bees and got some more stuff going. I got into other things like orchids, and just trying to diversify.
So it
like,
really was a catalyst for you to branch out with your
yeah,
business and with your experience and with your beekeeping. So that came after the lava flow. And this was really all of your business started after your education at UH Hilo. You said you were an alumni with the Tropical Plant Science and Agroecology. How did you initially decide that that was the route that you wanted to go versus some of the other, working on a farm? What inspired you, or what made you decide that you wanted to grow your own crops and produce your own food and then bring that into a business? What is that spark for you?
right. Well, I'd always had like a vegetable garden, and I was like really into sustainability and like growing my own food. And I just kind of, took a passion of mine and something that I loved, and turned it into something that I could make money with. And then, like when I first started in agriculture, I heard a lot of, oh, you ain't gonna make no money and this and that. Like, oh, you want to be a farmer, really? Like, but um, yeah, and then I don't know. It was just like, well, if I can do something that I love and it makes me happy,
Hmm.
and because you definitely don't. You don't do beekeeping to like get rich, you do it for the love of the bees and the love of the honey, and that's important. And if that's your main focus, even if you don't make a lot of money, you're still happy and you're still fulfilled. And but the longer you stick it out, the more rewarding it is. And you know
It sounds like a key component to being a resilient farmer is remembering your why, remembering why you do this. What is it that keeps you going? The love of bees and the love of honey is a great reason why to keep you motivated with bee farming.
Right. It goes with the channeling my inner Tony Robbins. Like, yeah, if you find the why, the how is easy. And so yeah, it's that's a good question to ask. Like, why am I even doing this? But
Hmm.
yeah.
And that can be a daunting question for some people because sometimes we just get so caught up in the day to day of living that sometimes we can get drifted off from that intention, from that core reason that keeps us motivated. Uh, and we're seeing such high levels of stress and depression amongst our farmers in Hawaii. However, we also see such a deeply rooted reason for why, that intimate relationship and connection to the land. So what are some of our issues? What do you think is happening here, but with that disconnect
Um,
with overall well-being and the operations of farming for our farmers here in Hawaii?
well, it's wow, that's a deep question. Um, the disconnect, I think a lot of it is there's a lot of people out out there that understand and they support local agriculture and they get it. But there's always that thing, consumer preference, and a lot of times like people have to be like educated on, well, especially like with beekeeping and stuff like that, like with the honey. I like to try to bridge that gap by I bring like an observation hive to the market, and a lot of times that's like why people have never seen inside a beehive, and they don't necessarily know like all the great benefits of honey, or eating like fruits and things like that. So like a little sciencey kind of little lesson on bees, or whatever it is. Like every week I try to have like a little different something and to teach the kids, and
And you
like
do this at markets or with kids, you go to
yeah.
schools and
I've got invited. A couple of teachers have invited me, and I've done the USDA career day up at the Komohana Extension,
oh,
and yeah, I've done a lot of outreach for like beekeeping in the community and stuff, and but yeah, mostly I just do it at the markets, and I go to quite a few different ones, mostly Maku'u Market, but um, some other smaller ones as well. I've been doing the Volcano Night Market, and sometimes I make it down to Calipana or
on a side
Hakalau.
note, have you ever considered getting into not bee extermination? What is it called when bees are stuck inside your walls and you have to call someone to
Oh,
remove
bee
them?
removals,
Bee
yeah, hive
removals,
removals,
hive
yeah,
removals.
yeah. I I do quite a bit of those,
Yeah.
and yeah, yeah. It's kind of stressful, because you get people that are freaking out because they got bees in their house, and um usually, they're like, they just started coming in, it'd be real easy, they just started coming in, and then they got like a whole wall or ceiling full of them, and then you gotta try to keep them calm, and then they like, they expect you to drop everything, and and
hmm
sometimes it can take like a week long, it's not easy just to like get them
Take them
out.
out
I
of the
mean,
wall and
sometimes.
move them.
Right, like cut open the wall, and then a lot of times people like, oh no, don't cut my wall. It's like, yeah, yeah, it's a real, yeah, it's a real, I don't know, touchy situation, and then you got
Do
to keep
they,
your cool.
when you do the removals, do you put the folks in suits or are they exposed? Because you're wearing a suit to be protected.
Yeah, yeah. Well, one time I did that. Like the lady was like really excited because it was just a real simple one. It was like a swarm that had landed in a tree, and it was on a branch, and it was like a fairly easy removal. And the lady was like really into it. And yeah, so I got her in a suit, and went to cut the branch, and like just this lady's commentary, like they went in the box just fine, and like I'm getting them scooped in there, and like this lady just like, I forget what she said, but all of a sudden the bees were like, and just like started flying away, and I'm like trying to smoke and like get them back in the box, and I'm like, I'm not gonna make this mistake again, because it's kind of like, when you're catching the swarm, you gotta make the right moves, and you real, quiet, and get them in
And
there,
they're
and
really
just
sensitive to your
that
energy, right? So you have to be
yeah,
calm and collected when you do this.
right, yeah. So just that lady, I forget what she said, but they're like, nope, and just started flying out, and I'm putting the lid on, like, dang.
Oh my
So
goodness.
yeah, if it's like in there, like I try to get them in one area, so they're not like flying all over the house, or, I try to get it so they can still have a functioning house, and keep them out of their way as much as possible, try to keep people from getting stung, and like,
hmm
you know, act around the bees so they're not freaked out. It's usually just like moving slow, like, a lot of times people start swatting them or like batting them, but like when you move fast, like it alerts the bees like, oh, there might be like a danger. And then like if you're swatting them, like slapping them, they'll like the bees see that, and like they assume you're already getting stung, and then it's like, it puts out the signal to them to attack you. So the best thing to do if like you got a bee buzzing around you that's kind of like checking you out is just to like do the everybody's seen the meme with like Homer Simpson like fading back into the bushes, and that's pretty much what you got to do. Just kind of like, oh, I got stung, instead of like, ooh, freaking out. You just kind of like Homer Simpson in the bushes, just slowly walk away, get away from the hive, don't freak out. Cool, that's the best way. But most
That's
of the
great
time, if like
advice.
bees are out, yeah, most of the time if bees are out and about, they're just foraging, and if they're buzzing around you, they think you're a flower, and
Mm.
so
So
good way
take
to
it as a
think of it.
compliment if they come up to greet you.
Yeah, right, right. And then another weird thing about bees is that um, they'll recognize your face. Like my bees, they're pretty comfortable around me, and I guess to a bee, my face to them looks like a really intricate flower, which I always thought was really, really amazing. If you
It does
have
kind of
bees
look like a
around,
flower.
yeah, you.
Oh, so are you a one-man show in this operation, or do you have folks that work with you, or do you have a team?
Yeah, pretty much a one-man show. I got a new helper, and but I don't have like any like official um employees as of yet. I'm working on it. I want to be a job creator, but just doing the best I can with what I have available so far. But there's a lot of people that are interested in bees, and will help you out just for like a little, some knowledge, and because it's there's a lot to beekeeping. So there's a lot of people who help you out just to learn,
Hmm.
and
Which makes it,
yeah,
more realistic for the opportunity to expand when there's that interest, even to learn about the practice. So
right, right.
that's exciting. And if you were to expand, what are you looking at? What is kind of your long-term vision? If you don't mind sharing, you don't have to.
Oh, right. I am. Well, like I'm really into like the honey from like fruit tree crops, and seems like a lot of the beekeepers, they're not like, I mean, they're into plants as well, but not like I am. So I really get into like the different flows of nectar and pollen, and then I have an orchard, so I can see what the bees are after and what they're going on. So um, yeah, I lost my train of
No
thought. What was
worries.
the question
So
again?
what you just said actually reminded me of a question. So I'm curious about your integration with the bees and the fruit crops. Do you have, I would assume that you utilize your fruit crops to produce different, is it flavors? Is that,
Yeah,
how does
yeah,
that
like they
work?
well, like this year, the mangoes bloom first, like end of December, January, and the mango honey is like how mango trees are like really they got that sap, and they're like it's like really sticky. Well, the
Hmm.
honey is almost like that. It's really like thick and like not sappy, but it's like real sticky, and then like the lychee comes on, and the lychee's like real liquidy and really smooth, and the nectar is like real plentiful. So like I'll see it where like the mango, they'll start filling the frames in with the mango, and then like the next part will be lychee, and you can tell like the difference between the two. So a lot of times the
Oh.
mango and the lychee gets mixed together, and yeah,
And
like
would
I
you
was saying
sell
before,
that then as mango lychee honey?
I I do tell people like I got a pretty good idea what they're going on, but like the bees can go wherever they want. So like I don't necessarily know for sure. And then to label your honey as like a certain variety, like you have to have like a PCR test, and those tests are like really expensive. So like you pretty much gotta really, really super know. And like I have a pretty good idea, but I'm not like big enough to be like,
Mm-hmm.
getting all kinds of tests and stuff like that. I mean, I like after years of experience, I can tell like what it looks like in the frame and by the
Mm.
tape. But it's always a little bit different. Like, oh, they might have been getting a little bit of this, or like maybe this one has a little bit of coconut in there. So what I tell people is I'm like, it's like, my educated guess, beekeeper's best guess.
Mm-hmm.
And that works for most of them, because they always want to hear what you think it is. Um, and then like on the lychee, I I I would feel pretty confident, because it's such like the bees love it so much. Like they'll choose the lychee over almost any other flower. So
Hmm.
that one I can kind of say without like, the definitive PCR test, but
And is
yeah,
that,
if you put it
do you know that by just by sight and the consistency of what it looks like in the frame, or is there also a distinctive flavor that you notice
the
amongst your
flavor,
honeys? Yeah.
yeah, so the lychee it won't taste like the fruit per se, or at least not right away. But I'll have it'll be smooth and then it's not too sweet. The mango is like really super sweet, but the lychee is like it's sweet, but it's smooth. It's like really good for tea. And then the aftertaste, it's like flowery, and then at the end, it's kind of a little fruity.
Mm.
And yeah, so it's got like I always describe it as having like flowery and fruity notes. Which I have so many fruit trees, like my honey always has like a fruity or a flowery note. So that's like a pretty consistent thing. Yeah, and then about like how like expanding, yeah, I definitely talked to some other farmers that have really huge orchards, like 700, 800 trees, and that's where I'm like, that's kind of where I'm looking to expand to some bigger, put my bees at some bigger operations until I
Do
can
you
have a
have the
big
space to do that on your own
tree.
land, or you would move your bees?
Yeah, that's like one of the beauties of being a beekeeper is like, yeah, you don't necessarily have to have the trees yourself. You can just put them in areas, network. And yeah, I've got quite a few yards, but like, yeah, then again, it's like you kind of spread yourself thin if you're running to this yard and that yard, and like, oh, what if something happens over here? And
Mm-hmm.
uh, and about the question about like motivation, like sometimes the bees just like they're going and going, and like you don't have no choice but to just like keep on keeping up with them, because they don't stop for nothing. So it's kind of and then when the bees give you a break when there isn't like any pollen or nectar coming on, you just kind of like whew. So yeah, definitely the bees keep me motivated for sure. Sometimes it's kind of a struggle trying to keep up with them because they're so relentless. But
And so, if someone wanted to put a box in their backyard and try to beekeep in their backyard, is backyard beekeeping, something that you can sustain and produce enough honey just for yourself, or do you really have to have like a full
um,
system operation?
yeah, so I get people that come and they're interested in getting like a beehive, but without any like classes or training about it. Like it can be a very like expensive hobby at first because you got to get all the equipment, and then you got to buy the bees, and then if you don't put them in a good spot, there's always a chance that the bees just fly away, or like if you don't know how to um uh like identify like problems in the hive, like
Mm-hmm.
mites, beetles, or if you don't have the knowledge to take care of like those issues, like you'll it can be a very expensive hobby
Stressful.
real quick. You just fly
Expensive
away,
and
and
stressful hobby.
right. So
And you said
it
by the
takes a little.
bees. So you can't just grab, like harness the bees from outside.
Oh yeah, there's people who get their start that way, and that's probably one of the better ways to start because it doesn't. I mean, you're just like getting the boxes and the frames and stuff, but you can go catch swarms and you can get put on a list to go catch them. And sometimes they're like real easy where you can just like cut a branch and grab the swarm and away you go. And then sometimes it's like, oh, it's in a wall or a ceiling or up on
Mm,
the third story on the overhang or so like they're not
hmm
always easy. Um and sometimes like it takes a lot out of the bees catching them.
But
And so they're
there's a
not like,
lot of potential challenges and with maintaining the environmental conditions of the box and the health of the bees that you could really compromise that whole swarm without that foundational knowledge. Are there classes around? You're in Pune, so what are some classes on Big Island that you know about for folks that would be interested in beekeeping?
um, Uh, I've been wanting to do classes for a while. I haven't gotten any going so far, but I'm working on it. I always gotta give a shout out to UAH. They got a really good certificate program, and it's pretty thorough. So that gives people like a good solid foundation to start. But also just working for a beekeeper and like getting the because commercial like the stuff that I learned at the university, and then I work for like a commercial beekeeper, and it's like night and day, totally different. So like learning both was really important. So um yeah, but just for backyard, I mean, you don't need to like know full scale like commercial kind of stuff, but um God's whining at me.
Well, if any listeners on Big Island are
Oh,
interested, they can come work with you. They can come do an
oh yeah,
internship
yeah,
with you.
definitely. Otherwise, yeah, my friend, Susan Hammer Collins, she does bee classes and she's a really great teacher and she's up in Hanaka'a. And she does some hands-on classes and they're fairly inexpensive and she's got all the equipment, which which is nice not having to get it shipped here. And
Hmm
then like she's got the suits. Her business is called Bird and Bee Hawaii, and it's nice to be able to go and try on the suit and make sure it fits because like I've gotten all kinds of like suits that I've ordered, and yeah, the ones that I've got from her have been the best because they try them on and they fit, and
hmm
she gets good suits that you can't get stung through, so that's always a plus, especially when you're kind of discouraging if you're getting stung through your suit. And yeah, I've had ones that have got stung through, so
How many
makes it
times have
a
you
lot
been
better.
stung?
How many times? Oh, like at this point, probably like in the thousands, probably after doing it for yeah. I probably get stung a good each time I beekeep, I probably get stung once or twice at least. So
The bees
yeah.
die when they sting you, right?
Yeah. Most of the time it like happens like, I'll be like extracting honey. Um, and I won't have my suit on. I'll be in the house, not by the bees, but a bee will be stuck in there and I'll like step
Mm-hmm.
on it or something, or like
Mm-hmm.
I'll have a bee that like hung on to me and like I'll go to wipe my neck or something and like, oh, I squashed her and like no, she stung me, and but they say like
Oh.
it's good for you, apitherapy and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people with like arthritis and like other chronic pain will sting themselves to like boost their like immune response, and people swear by it. I mean, there's just as many people who say like you're crazy, but there's people that really works for them. And
That's called
people
apotherapy.
pay to get apotherapy. Yeah, like
Apotherapy.
yeah, it sounds a lot nicer than bee venom therapy. Usually that like bee venom, just like, oh, what bee venom? No, but you say apotherapy, they're like, oh, apotherapy, what's that?
Have
And
you
then
used it, or have you intentionally tried to heal certain ailments in your body with that?
no, it always seems like the bees have some kind of like sense where they'll just sting me, like
They're like, your
like
neck's messed up. I'm gonna sting you right here.
right. I'm like, yeah, so when I get stung, like I have like a more positive self-talk thing about it where I'm just like, oh, I must have needed a sting there, Oh, thank you. You know, oh my girls, oh, they love me, Um but I definitely notice like some when I get stung, like those old like naggy kind of pains and like joints and stuff like that, it goes away.
Hmm.
So I believe in the power of the bee sting, and that's why a lot of people think that like beekeepers like live a long time is because they're getting stung. So, well, and then all the honey and beeswax and propolis and all the other products of the hive. But I think the main thing is getting stung.
Do you just make honey, or do you do any value-added products with your honey?
um, I with the honey, I make mead. Um, I'm not like on a commercial level with it yet, but and then for those who don't know, mead is honey wine. Um, so I do make a little bit of that just for my personal consumption at this point, but it's something that I'm interested in going commercial with in the future. And then yeah, there's quite a few people out there that are thinking about doing that too. So hopefully I can get it going before they do.
Or maybe you guys all come together and make the first
Right.
Hawaii mead, premium
All
mead
right.
from Hawaii.
You're right. I would love to do it like that, and like, because there's so many different kinds of honey from all over the island. Like the possibilities of different mead flavors are endless. So, yeah, it would be, yeah, I've kind of thought about doing it like that, like a sustainable cooperative type where, we all have like a central location we can bring our honeys and like ferment them and get them served to people and have it all be legit and have it all shipped out to all around the world. I think that would be a great way to market our honey
Mm-hmm.
here on the, because yeah, we got some good honey. I think it's the best in the world, and a lot of people agree with me, but
If
sometimes the
folks want
best
to
of the
buy
world.
your honey, do you have an online store, or are you only selling at markets? And if so, which markets and what days are you there so folks can come support you?
So I'm at Maku'u Market every Sunday, and then I have been doing Volcano Market on Thursday nights from 3 to 6, and then the other markets are kind of hit or miss, but yeah, sometimes I make it to the other ones. Like I'm always looking toward getting into other ones or trying this one every so often. But the two main ones right now are Maku'u Market and then the Volcano one on Thursdays. Um, and then I don't have an online store at the moment, but I'm working on it, but it's kind of been a slow process. But I do mail order.
Hmm.
And then like yeah, if you just get a hold of me, my email or like my phone number, like I can ship honey out anywhere. And yeah, I'd be glad to send honey wherever. But I don't
Cool.
I don't
We'll
have a
include your we'll
right.
include your email address with this podcast in the description so that folks can reach out to you. We have
I
viewers
will.
all over the world. So
Yeah, that's
yeah, and
awesome.
this is really exciting to do this podcast with you now in your state, in your current stage. It'll be exciting to watch you blossom, no pun intended, over the years, and
Nice.
see what
Nice
comes
talk.
out with this growth. And there's a lot of opportunity here for, you know, you even to help steward this coalition of bee farmers and mead makers. And you know, it's very inspiring to hear your story and how passionate you are and the relationships that you have with these bees. It helps me walk outside to see my huge swarm of bees with a new light. If I can just enter that space, thinking that I'm a flower, maybe maybe they'll respond differently to me.
Did you get a swarm of bees at your place?
Yeah, I've been meaning to reach out to you about that. There's so many. I am in a Lehua forest. They're everywhere. So
Oh, that's so
my problem is with the puppies, is that I also have these puppies, and one of them's already been stung twice, and he completely swells up.
yeah.
Yeah, so and you know they try to chase them and they don't understand. So
Oh, right. My dog does that. She's a regular honey hound, but she'll like if the bees get in the house, she'll chase them, and yeah, she'll get stung, and like
so it
she
just kind
gets
of
like
is what it
itchy.
is. And I think that's, you
Yeah.
know, would you agree that that's a secret to farming is sometimes when things happen, you just have to go with it. There's when we
Right.
try to have control over these situations, we're really just driving ourselves crazy.
Oh, right, right. Yeah, like, oh, am I gonna be able to stop this dog from going by my beehives? Probably not, but like I think she'll learn her lesson eventually, and she has, so it's yeah. Yeah.
Awesome, Daniel. Well, thank you so much for your time. Is there any last things that you'd like to leave our listeners with? Some piece of advice for a peace of mind?
Um, I don't know, but I could share with everybody how to do a little meditation technique called bee breath.
Bee breath. I
Yeah,
love it.
bee breath.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Okay. So, what you do is, if you ever like have like racing thoughts or you just want to like clear your mind really, really fast, it's a technique called bee breath. And what you do is you take a deep breath through your nose into the bottom of your stomach, and then, when you go to let it out, you let it out through your mouth and you buzz like a bee, but you also at the same time close your eyes and plug your ears. So it's like the the vibrations all in your head, right? And so I'll do it. So I'm taking a deep breath. And it's just so
Wow.
refreshing.
You
It's
can
your like
feel like it vibrating the molecules in your body.
right? It's like a great way to reset. And then you're real stressed out, like just do two, three of them, and it's like, whoa, and I like to do
Let's
that. Like before I hit my bees, it kind of like gets all that like, yucky energy off of me and I can, get in there and do my thing. But it's great to
Can
do.
we do that together? Can we do a couple buzz breaths? Will you guide
Sure.
me through it? And then our listeners can follow in and do a few of them.
Okay. All right. So should I explain it or just do it? No.
Both. Yeah.
All right. So I'll take well, and the other thing is like, well, when you plug your ears, you like pull on your earlobe a little bit and then plug your ears. I'm not sure. It's like some kind of point or something.
So
Yeah.
plug your ears and pull.
Yeah. So yeah, you're doing like this. Yeah. I forgot about that at first, that little thing.
Oh, wow. That amplifies the buzz in my brain.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, okay, here, I'll do it.
Hmm. Amazing.
Right on.
It really resets the body completely. What a powerful tool.
Awesome.
We
Yeah.
might have to have you record a 5-minute guided buzz bee breath.
Yeah.
That would be an incredible resource, especially for our farmers, that's speaking their language. So,
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. I think I might have to do something like that. I've been thinking about doing little videos, like, little farming videos. I think
I'll reach
it'd
out
be
to you and we'll
good.
make that connection. We'll make that
All
happen.
right. Right.
Wonderful, Daniel. Well, thank you so much again for your time. It was great chatting with you and having you here in this space. And we look forward to watching your journey.
All right. Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure, and yeah, I look forward to talking to you again and sharing
Aloha.
the journey. Aloha.
We want to thank our guests for their generosity and mana'o. We also want to thank all our ag producers throughout the islands, and especially those we have heard on the podcast for discussing ways they address the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual dimensions of Hawaii ag production. Each story, each voice contributes to a broader understanding of what it takes to survive and thrive as we feed our communities. Wherever you may find yourself within our island agriculture economies, if you would like to share your story in our podcast, please contact us. Thank you for listening to the Seeds of Wellbeing Voices from the Field podcast featuring their perspectives of ag producers throughout the Hawaii Islands. If you have found it helpful, please follow, like, and share this episode with others. And if you have any ideas about how we can make it better, please let us know in the comments or use the link on our website. Mahalo for tuning in.